How's it going, boys? In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at some weapons that don't really get used in BO1. Underrated, if you will. They aren't bad by any means, just overshadowed by the Galil, Commando, HK, and so on. We'll be taking a look at stats from all the weapons, and wonder weapons won't be counted on this. If you want to see more top 5s or just zombie content in general, feel free to subscribe as we'll be covering all COD zombies up to BO3. And if I missed any weapons you guys think are underrated, feel free to leave it in the comments. Without wasting any more time, let's get right to it. Starting off at number 5, we have the G11. The G11 isn't anything special by any means, much like any other weapon in BO1 zombies, but I do think this weapon is underused and it's really not that bad. It has a base damage of 70 to 100, or when upgraded, 100 to 150. The headshot multiplier isn't terrible either with the 4 times multiplier, or when upgraded a 5 times multiplier to the head with the 1 times multiplier to the chest. The fire rate is pretty good at 1250 rounds per minute, but since it's a burst weapon, it caps out at 523 rounds per minute. When upgraded, it gets a solid 1250 rounds per minute at all times. The ammo when upgraded is quite low at 48 in the round tube thing and 144 in reserve. When upgraded, you do get double the amount with 48 in the round tube thing and 288 in reserve. Sounds nice, but you'll be burning through all the ammo real fast. The G11 has a reload speed of 2.7 seconds and 3.8 seconds when empty for both versions of the gun. I think overall this weapon can be placed slightly above the M16. The only downside is you can't buy ammo for this gun, so if you choose to use it, you'll constantly be needing to hit the box, but yeah. Coming in at number 4, we have the CZ75. And we're not talking about the dual wield CZs, we're talking about just a plain old pistol. Even on its own, it isn't awful as it competes and even outperforms weapons like the G11, FAMAS, and a few others in terms of base damage, at a solid 100 or 150, or when upgraded 200 300 damage. It has a headshot multiplier of 3.5 times and a 1 times multiplier to the chest, both unupgraded and upgraded. The fire rate is at a solid 625 rounds per minute and 535 rounds per minute when upgraded. The ammo is a little lacking at 15 in the mag and 135 in reserve, or when upgraded 20 in the mag and 220 in reserve. As for the reloading, it's a pistol, so naturally it's gonna have a quick reload speed at 1.6 seconds and 2 seconds when empty. This gun has a lot of upsides and downsides. The upside is the damage is quite high, but the downside is the ammo, especially since it turns into a full automatic, you're going to be burning right through that ammo. But it's definitely a lot of fun to use, and you'll at least be able to kill some zombies, unlike a lot of other weapons on BO1. Coming in at number 3, I know, wow, we have a shotgun in the video, but we have the Stakeout. Personally, I'm not a fan of this weapon or shotguns in general in Black Ops 1, but I can't deny that this gun gets overshadowed by the SMAS, and to be fair, it's for good reason. But it doesn't take away the fact that the Stakeout is actually a pretty solid weapon and it's actually a lot of fun to use. The Stakeout has a base damage of 160 for every pellet that hits, which is 8 in total, so that could come to a max damage of 1280, and when upgraded you deal 240 damage for every pellet you hit, which is 10 totaling in at a max damage of 2400. I will say the biggest downside is the fire rate at a very low 63 rounds per minute, but when upgraded it increases to 71. So I guess that's worth something. I don't know, you should have just kept it the same at that point. The mag size is low like most guns in BO1 at 6 shells and 54 in reserve, and when upgraded 10 shells and 60 in reserve. The reload speed is 0.5 seconds for every shell, meaning that a full reload will take you 3 seconds, which isn't awful, and when upgraded it'll take you a total of 2.5 seconds to reload when fully empty. In terms of BO1, I'd put this gun in the upper mid tier. In the grand scheme of things, it'd definitely be in the dog shit tier, but for what it is and the game it's in, it's actually not bad to use in the early rounds up until the mid 20s. At number 2, we have the GOAT of all starting weapons, the M14. On its own, this weapon isn't anything special. Matter of fact, it's pretty bad, but we'll cut it some slack since it's a starting weapon and I think it does its job well. But upgraded, it's actually a pretty solid option, and let me tell you why. The M14 has a base damage of 80 to 105, but when upgraded the damage shoots up to 150 to 200, which in terms of overall damage from all BO1 weapons, it's actually on the higher tier of damage. In terms of headshots, the M14 has a multiplier of 3 times to the head, or when upgraded a 6 times multiplier, which is kind of insane, meaning if you land your shots you can get some serious work done with this gun. As for the chest, it has a 1.25 multiplier or a 2 times multiplier when upgraded. It has a solid fire rate of 625 for both versions of the gun, and the mag size of 8 and 96 in reserve, or when upgraded 16 in the mag and 192 in reserve. The reload speed isn't bad either at 2.4 seconds or 3.4 seconds when empty. If you guys haven't given this gun a pack-a-punch, I definitely recommend giving it a go. The ammo isn't there, but it's not a big deal as most people tend to train in the spawn room anyways. And at number 1, we have the most underrated gun in BO1, that being the FN FAL. Now this one might be a hot take since most people never bat an eye at this gun due to it being mid, which I personally never understood as this gun has the stats to outperform weapons like the Galil and the HK in damage. I know those guns are more iconic and more versatile, but I've never shielded away from using it every now and then, as the work you can get done with this gun is almost, if not the same as a Galil. The FAL has a base damage of 130 to 160, or when upgraded, 180 to 240. To back up my claim, the Galil has a base damage of 100 to 150, and when upgraded, 150 to 220. The FAL has a headshot multiplier of 4 times, and when upgraded a 5 times multiplier, which is huge, and it also has a 1 times multiplier to the chest. The fire rate is a solid 625 for both unupgraded and upgraded versions. Man, I'm just realizing every gun on this list has been the same fire rate. The FAL has a max size of 20 and 180 in reserve, or when upgraded, 30 and 360 in reserve. And the reload speed is a nice 2.5 seconds or 3.1 seconds for both versions of the gun. I will stand by it. This gun does what few weapons on BO1 can't do, and it's killing zombies. Give it a pack-a-punch and I promise you'll get more work done with this gun than you will most, if not all, regular weapons. And that does it for today's top 5, boys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed the video. If you disagreed with any of the guns on this list, feel free to let me know in the comments. And if you want to see more top 5s or top 10s on BO1, both zombies or multiplayer, leave it in the comments below. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!